Today, Ukraine's President Zelenskyy toured the eastern city of Izium, where just weeks ago, the place was occupied by Russian forces. In what was as much a declaration of victory as a show of defiance, Zelenskyy today raised the Ukrainian flag over the city. After 7 months of the Russian invasion, Ukrainian forces have suddenly reshaped some of the battle lines and advanced in the east and the south at lightning speed, forcing Russian troops to retreat just as quickly. And that is sending shockwaves all the way to Moscow. Russian President Vladimir Putin is facing unprecedented criticism of his war policy, and there are calls for him to ramp up the war effort, including a general draft. But tonight, Putin is resisting, insisting that Ukraine will remain a limited operation. We have more now in this report.
In the city of Izium, President Zelenskyy shakes the hand of a Ukrainian commander. Thanks to his troops' hard work, the city has now been liberated from Russian forces. But there's been so much fighting here that there's not much of it left.
There are no surprises. It's, that's not shock for me. The view is very shocking, but it's not shock for me because we began to see the same pictures from Bucha, from the first deoccupied territories. So the same, destroyed buildings, killed people, and so what can I say?
Ukraine's northeastern counteroffensive has seen the Ukrainian army take back a wide swathe of territory in the space of just a few days. But residents here are shell-shocked. What they endured during 6 months of Russian occupation is just starting to come to light. In the battle-scarred city of Balaklia, southeast of Kharkiv, reports of torture are emerging.
They made me hold 2 wires attached to an electric generator. The faster you spin, the higher the voltage. They kept spinning it and asking questions. They said I was lying, so they did it more. It happened to some prisoners every other day.
With the Ukrainian army back in control, residents here long to put the dark days of war behind them and see the Ukrainian flag rise over the country once again.
Well, my first guest tonight is a Zelenskyy insider. From June 2019 to June 2021, Luliia Mendel served as the spokesperson for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. It would be the crucial foundation for her new book published this week, which is entitled The Fight of Our Lives, My Time with Zelenskyy, Ukraine's Battle for Democracy and What It Means for the World. Luliia Mendel joins me tonight from New York City. Luliia, it's good to have you with us this evening. The pictures that we saw today, the flag going up over territory that had been controlled by the Russians just days ago, that flag being hoisted by Zelenskyy. How did you feel when you saw those images?
Well, thank you first for having me. Second, yes, Ukraine is regaining back its territories, and it's really a fascinating development that all the country has been waiting for the last 7 months. It's like 7 months of the battle, of the fight for our very existence. And now when we see and when we have shown to the world that we can regain the territories back, we hope that the community, international community, will stay unified and will provide us all the opportunities and resources to fight Russia out of the territory of Ukraine. You know that 1.2 million of Ukrainians still stay in occupation under Russia, and also Ukraine is moving not only in the northern east and east of the country, but also trying to move to the Kherson region, which is my hometown region, which is in the south of the country. And this also brings joy to me that I feel like my own hometown can be liberated very soon.
And let me ask you, Yulia, this rapid Ukrainian advance that we have seen, it apparently caught the Russians by surprise. Were you surprised at how quickly events unfolded and how, this course of history began turning?
Well, I'm not a military expert to be surprised, but I've heard so many fascinated descriptions of what is going on the battleground from very matured military people, from generals around the world. And we all understood that Ukrainian army is capable of winning this war because we understand that our people are very determined and very devoted. They have what to fight for. Contrary to Russian army, our motivation is to retake our territory and to stand independent country. We are fighting here for the values and we are fighting for the democratic way of life. We have chosen that. Instead of Russians, and if we look at the Russians, first of all, the corruption became the part of Russian identity, and that's why their army came in Ukraine, and very soon they didn't have food and fuel, and they didn't have what to, and how to fight with. Right. And the second is they don't have any motivation just to come and kill people here in Ukraine.
Yulia, I wanted to talk a little bit about your story. I want you to, if you could, to take us back to June of 2019. That's when you joined what was then this new Volodymyr Zelenskyy administration. How radical of a departure was that administration to the ones that Ukraine had seen previously?
Well, that definitely was a big shot. Let me say that Volodymyr Zelenskyy was an absolute novice to Ukrainian politics. I'm describing a lot of details in my new book, The Fight of Our Lives. I'm describing how this person from an entertainment business comes to politics and changes it forever. But before that, when two old school politicians wanted to run elections for the president of Ukraine, I saw that Ukrainians had such a fatigue. They were so irritated by this old school manner of behavior. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy gave a lot of hope. People really saw him as an equal one, as a person from the people, and they wanted him to change Ukrainian politics. He won 73%. This is the record. Let me remind you that. Right. And he's done amazing reforms up to now and stands as a military leader.
Yeah, I mean, he had a strong mandate when he came into office. And how do you explain this? I mean, we've got a man who made his career as a comedian who has morphed into this incredibly effective commander-in-chief, into this respected wartime president.
Let me say that comedian was, of course, one of his most popular roles. Everybody saw him on the stage, and he was really hilarious, and he was really very talented comedian. On the other hand, what was not seen, what was behind the stage, is that he is a lawyer by education, and that he has built a huge empire of humor, a huge business. In post-Soviet space, it is a big challenge. So there he actually developed as a leader while seeing all these challenges. In early 2000s, he even stood against Moscow's pressure towards his own career and actually decided to not to continue in Moscow, but to build this big business in Ukraine. I'm sure that this is where his character as a leader developed and grew. And to be frank, I was there for 25 months, and I was traveling with him to Donbass that Russia had invaded back in 2014. The military actions had been lasting for 8 years, and I saw him going to the front lines just to handshake with the soldiers, and even going there when the shelling was renewed to show that the leader does not run away. So I was not surprised that he stayed with Ukrainian people when there was threat to his life and to his family, and actually when Russia was approaching to Kyiv.
Yulia, who would you say is more responsible for this incredibly strong sense of Ukrainian identity that we see on display today? Has it been President Zelenskyy, or has it been Russian President Vladimir Putin?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure it is the one I can respond, but Ukrainian identity has been always different from Russia. You know, even in 1912, you can read some notes from Russian generals who were traveling on the territory of Ukraine, and that still was the Russian Empire, what was called. But at the same time, in these notes, it is written that people see that the life there is different, people are different, food is different, language is different, houses are different, identity was different. Ukraine considers that we've been fighting Russia for the last 400 years, but the fight for democracy, for the values, the fight for independence of really Ukraine as an equal and strong country is happening right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there are lots of people around the world who hope the best for you and Ukraine and hope that this fight for freedom ends sooner rather than later. Yulia Mendel, author of The Fight of Our Lives, My Time with Zelenskyy. Yulia, we appreciate your time. Please come back and talk with us again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.